Testing candles is a necessary evil in candle making. And it can be time consuming and costly and aggravating. But if we want to keep our customers coming back, it's a necessary evil. We just have to do it. So what do you do when you're trying to test a candle and you've burned it once, twice, 3 times, and it's just not performing? It's tunneling, it's burning too hot, the wick is obviously not the right size, there's no hot throw, or all kinds of other reasons why we just consider it a fail and have to retest. What do you do? Well, you could just blow it out. You could set it aside in that ever-growing box of not viable candles. You could just burn it for yourself. You could just trash it. Or what if there was a way for you to take that wick out, re-wick it, and keep going with that candle? Hi, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Lisa with Candles by Sincerely Ice Blue, and on this channel we talk about making candles, getting started in your own candle business, and everything that comes in between. And let me tell you, there's a lot. If you're new here, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, become part of the family. Would love to have you on my channel and join in the fun every week. So today we're talking about testing. And we already said it's a necessary evil, but boy, the costs can add up. You've got your jars and wicks and wax and fragrance and dyes and just everything that it takes to make your candle. You have to put it in there so that you can test it. And when that test isn't going well, it can be aggravating, especially when you know after the first or second burn that that wick is not working out. And every week I try and spend time looking at other candle makers, some of the experts' YouTubes, and trying to learn some tips and tricks, which is hopefully what you're doing here today as well. And one day I came across a recommendation on how to re-wick your candle and take that wick out, put a new one in, and just keep going. And I gotta admit, I was a little leery about that when I saw it. I just thought, that can't be right. That can't be the right way to do testing. I have to start over each and every time. But after watching the video and becoming frustrated and watching that pile of ever-growing fails, I guess is what I'd call them, I decided to give it a try. And I was pleasantly surprised. So let's take a look at the process and how it went. All right, so what do you do when you've started burn testing and realize that they're just going to tunnel no matter what you do? So I learned a trick from another candle maker on being able to take that out and put a new wick in. So let's give it a shot. So I'm going to take this apple core and I'm going to just stick it right down on the wick and twist it and pull it out. Now sometimes you can see it'll leave the wick behind, which is not bad. So then what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to just kind of scoop out my wax from the core. And I'm going to set it aside. All right, now let's do the other one. Leave that wick where it is for the moment. All right, and same thing. Just going to scoop that wax out of here. Because after we get a new wick in place, we are going to put this back in and use our heat gun to melt it back into place. All right, so if I take this wick and try and tug on them, see if they come out. They don't, so I'm going to have to get a pair of pliers and try and pull those out. All right, now we have our pliers. So we're going to just reach down in there and do our best to pull it out. There's one. Sometimes they doesn't work. There's two. So these candles are the Dollar Tree candle jars, which are wonderful. And the wax that we used is the American soy wax, the American Freedom wax, the American soy organics. The wicks that we used were Premier 765. We tried the CD18 and we tried a Premier 760. So all three of those, you can see how they tunneled. So now I'm going to get some different wicks. Okay, so we decided we're going to try and double wick these instead. So this handy dandy little guide that you see on the top, I actually got from a store in Etsy, which I will put in the description, the link for you. And we're using a skewer to poke the hole. And then what we have to do is scoop in the wax back into the hole where we pulled it out. Now this is what's called wickless testing, technically, because you can see we're just dropped those wicks in. There's no tabs on the bottom, so it's really not secured to the bottom. I'm not going to be able to burn this all the way down because it will tip over. The wicks will tip over if I do that, but we're just trying to get a feel for the best wicks with this wax in these jars. And again, we're going to smooth it out with the heat gun so we don't have to worry that the top's kind of ugly at the end. So let's do the other one. And this is the last one. So what we decided to do is the Premier 765 and the Premier 760. We decided to keep those wicks just based on what our burn pools look like, our melt pools. And we decided to double them up. And then we completely changed the CD18 because it had a larger melt pool, but I don't have anything to wick up with that. And we decided that double wicking might be the better option. So we actually changed that, and we're going to wick down and do 2 CD16s. So again, you can see how he used the skewer and pushed down the holes. Now he is putting the rest of the remaining wax that we dug out with our apple corer back in. And I'll also put the Amazon link for this apple core that I purchased as well. I've done this several times now, and it's a wonderful option for not having to try and figure out how to dig out the wax or what I'm going to do or just throw the candle away. If after the first or second burn, you can completely tell that that wick isn't going to work, it gives you an option to pull that wick out. And this is kind of something you can do in lieu of starting over completely. All right, now we're going to hit it with the heat gun. All right, here's our heat gun. I also got this off of Amazon. We're going to turn it just on low, and we're just going to hit those tops. So just like you would do if you had tunneling or if you needed to smooth out your top, we're doing the exact same thing here. And you can see it's smelling pretty nicely. And you don't have to totally heat it because it's going to still keep melting. So we're going to scoot over to the next one. We also don't want it to melt so much that the wicks fall over. And then we're going to hit over the last one. And if it looks like your wicks are going to fall over, what you want to do is secure them just like you were getting ready to pour your wax. Which is probably what I'm going to do while these are still liquefied. All right, it's the next day. Here we are with 2 of the candles. Now these 2 have been burning. The one on the left here, I just pulled the wicks out of, but these have both been burning since 8 o'clock in the morning and it is now 11:15. And you can see this one here was just tunneling and doing a whole lot of nothing. So I blew it out, pulled the wicks out, and I will retry something else. And I'm getting ready to just pull this one too. As you can see, it is burning very, very hot. See from the side how deep it is. There's a lot of carbon buildup, and the jar itself is actually really hot. So those two wicks didn't work either. All right, I blew that one out and brought the third one in. So you can see this one is actually got a decent sized melt pool, and it's not super deep. But the problem is there's absolutely no hot throw from it. And I can tell you the two that I've just blew out, the scent in the room is amazing, which tells me it's, of course, the wicks. So the one that's still burning right here, I changed it from a single 765 to a double 765. And it's a decent burn. I mean, they're small and the pool is okay, but absolutely no hot throw from this. Okay, so that's it. As you can see, it's a fairly easy process. And I have read where people also may soak their wicks before they reinsert them in like a combination of wax and fragrance oil. I haven't tried that yet, and it's worked well without doing that. So if you do try it, let me know what results you get, if it works any better or less better, whatever the case may be. But it is a great option for you to give a try instead of wasting that candle after the first or second burn. Now just make sure that after you put in that new wick and you melt the top, you do want to let it cure for a minimum of 5 hours. I personally recommend letting it cure overnight or at least 24 hours because you really want to make sure that that candle is set back in there. Another thing I have found out is if you are going to re-wick, don't forget to use a wick guide. The candles that I tried to just eyeball it and set it in there and then melted, what happens is as you start melting that wax, that wick's going to wiggle around. Then when you go to burn it, the wick is kind of starting to lean because that's how it's set in the candle. So I always recommend using a wick holder to do that as well. Another thing is I've seen people reuse their wicks when they take them out. I personally don't do that. I figured that if I'm reusing the wick, I'm going to have to reuse it. First of all, I'm going to have to store it, but then I'm going to have to reuse that wick in the exact same wax with the exact same fragrance and the same fragrance load and everything. Otherwise, that wick is kind of contaminating what I'm doing. So what I mean by that is if I use different waxes, if I use it in a different fragrance oil, I may not be getting the true results that I'm looking for. So that's entirely up to you. You can reuse them. I just personally don't. So that's what I've got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about it. Let me know how it goes for you when you do give it a try. I do want to tell you that the wicks that I used, the two that I double wicked, ended up burning far too hot. Well, one was burning too hot and one was actually tunneling still. So after 2.5 hours, I ended up blowing those out and setting them aside. But the one where I wicked down with a single wick to the CD16 wick, that one is still going. The burn pool on it is really nice. And it does have a hot throw, but not the hot throw that I'm looking for. You can kind of smell it when you walk into the room, and I have it in the room with me now, and sitting here I can't smell it. So I'm going to have to continue some testing on that. And as I do, I will update you on the Dollar Tree vessels with the American Freedom Wax and let you know what I eventually figure out works the best. So thanks for tuning in today. If there's anything you'd like to hear me talk about in the future, just let me know. So today's video is actually part 1 out of at least one more video where I want to show you how to reuse and repurpose and get the best results from what you have. I know a lot of us starting out in this industry, you just don't have a lot of money to spare on research and development and testing. And you want to try and use what you have to do that. And I'm also a very big advocate for recycling and repurposing, using what I already own before buying new. So I'm going to try and give you as many tips and tricks as I've been using to just kind of help keep that cost down, but still give you the optimal results you're looking for when testing your candles. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed following along today, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. Would really love to have you as part of the family. And like I always say, live your life out loud. Just do it without spending quite as much money on testing if you can this week. Let me know how it worked for you. Bye for now.